Welcome back. I'm Coach Reese Hudgens again with Cronus Fit, and today we're going to talk about some weightlifting exercises that are really good for runners to be doing to both enhance your running form and boost your running performance. All I'm going to really focus on today is our lower half. I'm not really going to focus on the core or the upper body because there's plenty of exercise routines out there online to cover both your core and your upper body. But I just want to make sure to give you the basics for building strong legs so that we can run better out there in the real world. At the end, I'm also going to go over some plyometric exercises that are very good to build up the tendon strength necessary to be able to run for longer and run faster, and hopefully preventing any of those injuries that are caused by overuse during running and running more and more miles each week. For the weightlifting exercises, I'm really just going to be focused on 3 movements and different variations of those movements, that being the squat, the deadlift, and the lunge. So first, let's talk about the squat, and we can't talk about the squat without me giving you a little bit of coaching tips and some coaching cues to perform at least an air squat before we start loading it with weights. So to perform a squat, we want to have a hinge motion, push our hips back before we get down to our squat. I see a lot of people when I coach weightlifting as well. I see a lot of people start to bend to go down and squat from their knees first. When we're bending our knees first, we're effectively putting all the weight on our knees, and our knees do not like to really carry weight like that. Versus if we push our hips back into this hinge position, when we push our hips back, we're effectively loading the weight onto our hips. Our hips love to carry weight. So before we go down to every squat, I want to push my hips back, and then I can start lowering myself down into the squat. So because I do most of my weightlifting here in my basement gym, I'm just going to be focusing on using dumbbells for squats today. You can easily Google, front squat, back squat if you actually want to put heavier weights on your back or on your front of your shoulders to perform heavier squats. Feel free to do that, but for right now, I'm just going to stick to using dumbbells to load our squat. So the first movement that we're going to talk about is a goblet squat. A goblet squat is a form of a front squat, and it's done with 1 dumbbell. So we'll pick our dumbbell up. We're just going to be holding on to it from one side of the weight, and we're just going to be holding it just in front of us, just like this, against our chest. And from here, I'm going to use those same squat mechanics I talked about during that air squat demo to move my weight down, and then I'm going to drive through my feet to come up, and I'm also going to try to keep all of my foot on the ground at the same time. The next movement that I'm going to talk about for the squat is going to be a double dumbbell front squat. So we can think as a goblet squat as kind of like a beginner entry level exercise to load weight for a squat with 1 dumbbell. But if we want to get heavier with this and be able to engage our core just a little bit more, we can get 2 dumbbells, and we're going to hold them in the front rack position, and then all squat mechanics stay the same. So I'll pick up my dumbbells. I'll get them up near my shoulders. Again, from this position, I have to squeeze my abs just a little bit harder so my torso doesn't round forward. And it's the same squat mechanics. My hips go back first, and then I can go down in my squat. The third exercise I'm going to talk about for the squat is called the wall sit. A wall sit is very good isometric type of hold to build strength in our quad muscles, specifically for running downhill. I don't know how many of you have actually tried to run full speed downhill, but it can be very taxing on your quads. And then the day, 2 days, 3 days after that run where you're going max effort down a hill, you'll find that your quads tend to be very, very sore than those 3 days, even 4 days after you do that hard run downhill. So to perform a wall sit, you're just going to find a wall, self-explanatory there, and we're going to try and keep our entire back on the wall, and we're going to move our feet out, and we're going to sink down into the squat to where I have this right angle from my thigh to my calf. And I'm just going to hold this for as long as I need to, whether it be 30, 45, or 60 seconds. For as long as I need to hold it, I'm just going to hold this position right here. So now let's move on to deadlifts. So for deadlifts, I got 2 variations for you today. So we're going to focus on single leg RDL, Romanian deadlift, or B stance deadlift. So to perform a single leg RDL, you can either use 1 dumbbell or 2. Today I'm going to demonstrate it with 2. And what we're doing for a single leg RDL is we're going to pick 1 foot, and that foot's going to have all of our weight on that 1 foot. So for right now, I'm going to have my left foot loaded with all my body weight. And then I'm going to, as I move this weight down by pushing my hips back, I'm only going to go as low as I need to feel the pull on my hamstring, and then I'm going to fire my hips to get back up. I do not need to reach for the ground with every rep in order to get a good workout here. So I'm just going to push my hips back. My right foot's coming off the ground. It can reach out behind me as far as I need it to. I'm going to go down until I feel the pull of my hamstring and fire my hips up to move my weight back up. If you're having trouble with the balancing of a single leg Romanian deadlift, we can also do what we call B stance deadlift. So it's the same idea as a single leg Romanian deadlift in that you're going to put all of your weight on one leg. So this time I have all my weight on my right leg. And then your left leg or the opposite leg is going to be lightly posted behind you. I'm not really going to have any weight on this back leg. It's just here mainly for support. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did for the Romanian deadlift. I'm going to move the weight down by just pushing my hips back. I keep soft knees, vertical shins. I go down for as far as I need to feel the pull of my hamstring, and I fire my hips forward. If you're having trouble feeling that pull on your hamstring in both the single leg RDL or the B stance deadlift, the thing about shifting more weight to your toes, and that will make that pulling sensation be a lot more obvious to you. And then, like I said, we want to just go down to the point we feel that pull on our hamstring, and then just fire your hips back up from there. All right, so now let's talk about lunges. And I got two variations for you for lunges today. The first one's going to be what's called a reverse lunge, and the second one's going to be called a split squat. So for the reverse lunge, again, I'm going to do this with two dumbbells. These dumbbells, we can get into a lot of different positions with these dumbbells, from just hanging them down by our sides. You can pick them up to be in that front rack position. And you can either press them overhead to do these overhead style too. But for right now, again, we're just focusing on building our lower half, so we really don't have to worry about doing any of those other variations of a reverse lunge. So for a reverse lunge, it's self-explanatory once again. And so I'm going to stand with my feet together, and I'm going to take a step back, and then I'm going to drop this knee to the ground. Again, when I do this, I'm just touching my knee to the ground. The biggest thing here is to make sure we're trying to get a nice right angle here as close as we can, right angle on this front leg. And then from here, I'm just going to stand up through my front leg to get back up to the top. Tap, and we go back to the top. So a split squat is basically the same thing as a lunge, except I'm not going to be switching my feet. So I'm going to get into this nice lunging starting position right here, and all I'm going to do from here is I'm going to go down, tap my back knee, and stand straight back up. When I do these, I want more weight to be on my front leg than my back leg. So I shift my weight forward, down, tap the back knee, and stand up. So as far as how many reps and sets you should be doing of any of these exercises at any point in time, it can really range depending on your season and what part of the season you're in. For me, I normally stick to 3 to 4 sets of 10 to 15 reps of each of these exercises. You can superset them together. You can take 2, pair those together. You can take 2 more, pair those together, and do it like that. But yeah, we really don't want to be doing 5, 6, 7 reps or sets of these exercises multiple times a week. As far as how many days per week you should be weightlifting as a runner or an endurance athlete, again, that answer kind of depends on at what part you're at in your specific season. Early in the season, we can kind of get away with doing 3 gym workouts per week. As we start getting closer and closer to our peak weeks for our running or our endurance sport of choice, we're going to probably go down to 1 to 2 times per week. And then as we start to get really close to our race, we can even go down to 1 time per week or even sometimes 0 times per week. It just depends on where you're at in your season. My old triathlon coach always told me that we don't ever want to let the weight room affect our main sport being running, cycling, swimming, triathlon events. So anytime we're in the weight room, we don't want to crush ourselves in the weight room to where we're sore, to where we can't go out and hit that key run either directly after or even day after we do that gym session. So keep the gym session as just a way to both reinforce good running habits, good form, and for running performance, versus getting to the weight room and trying to always lift the absolute heaviest weight that you can on that given day. So something else that I also like to do as part of my gym sessions, either directly after that lifting session, or I really just do these after an easy run, are called plyometrics. Plyometric is just a fancy way of saying jumping. So when we do plyometrics, we're trying to train our tendons and build the tendon strength that we need to, again, have good running form and have good running performance. So the first exercise for plyometrics is called a pogo hop. All a pogo hop is a jump rope without the rope. So if you want to sub in jump rope versus the pogo hops, feel free to do that. I just don't have enough room in my basement gym for a jump rope. So I opt in to do the pogo hops. For a pogo hop, we always want to be just staying on the balls of our feet. We never want to let our heels drop because, again, we're trying to build the tendon strength needed in our feet, into our ankles to again, have good running form and good running performance. So a pogo hop is just this right here. Again, you can imagine like it just looks like I'm jumping rope if I had a rope. So again, if you want to sub in jump rope for pogo hops, go ahead. The second plyometric exercise that we're going to talk about is called the sprinter skip. A sprinter skip looks a whole lot like a lunge, except we're going to add a little bit more power to the part where we're standing up from this lunge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get down. I'm just going to place this knee on the ground with every single rep. And all I'm going to do from here is I'm going to lean forward as if I'm doing this lunge. And as I start to stand up, I'm going to drive my back leg forward. And then I'm going to give a little jump at the top. So what that'll look like is this. Again, I want you to mimic your arm motions as if we're running. So if our right knee is up, our left knee is forward. And as I go to stand up, I'm going to be driving my right hand forward as my left leg comes up. So again, it'll look like this. And as you land, you're just going to go back down to this position. The third plyometric that I'm going to talk about is a max effort jump to a single leg landing. So what we're going to do for here is I want you to get into that nice athletic jumping position, and we're going to load and we're going to give a max effort jump off the ground. And as you start to come back down to the ground, you're just going to land on one foot. You're going to balance yourself, make sure you land balanced, and then you're going to put that second foot down and you're going to get to another one. We're going to always alternate our feet for these. So what this will look like is I'll load, max effort jump, and I'll land on that one foot. And again, I'm trying to stay balanced. I'm trying to find my balance before I start to put this next foot down. So again, it'll look like this right here. I find my balance, and then I get to the next one. It's important to remember that when you're doing these single leg landings, that you're not landing with a stiff leg. We always want to land with a soft knee. We want to let our knee absorb that shock so we don't have any injuries in our knee. If you do have knee problems, I highly encourage you to avoid this exercise so we don't make that knee injury a lot worse. You can just do, if you're up for it, you can just do jumps to double leg landing until that knee injury gets a little bit better, and you can go back to doing the single leg landings. The fourth and last exercise for plyometrics I'm going to talk about today are called skater hops. So a skater hop, we're going to move laterally here. So if you can imagine what a speed skater looks like when they're skating from side to side, that's almost what we're going to look like as we're hopping back and forth. So when I'm on my left leg, I'm going to be jumping to the right. And when I'm on my right leg, I'm going to be loading and jumping to the left. Again, every time we land, I want you to think land balance, find your balance first before you go into that next step versus just jumping back and forth, not really focus on your balance. Okay, so skater hops will look like this. Again, with every single landing, I want you to find your balance. To add a little bit more complexity to these, you can hold a weight or a medicine ball to just drive home the fact that you need to land balance. But you don't have to do that. If you just do it with no weight, they'll be plenty useful for you. So don't think you have to add weight to make these harder. So here's a quick 15-minute plyometric exercise that I regularly do. Again, I usually do this after an easy run, but you can also throw these in after a weightlifting session. So for each of the exercises, we're going to always do them for 45 seconds each, and we're going to rest 15 seconds. We'll have 5 different exercises, so we're going to do these for 3 rounds total. The first exercise is going to be the pogo hops. The second exercise, we're going to do sprinter skips on our right leg. Then we'll shift and we'll do sprinter skips on our left leg. And then after that, we will do the jump to single leg landing, always alternating with every landing. And then in the fifth exercise will be the skater hops from side to side. Again, we'll do each of those exercises for 45 seconds, rest 15 seconds, and we'll do that a total of 3 times for a total of 15 minutes.